Hey, everybody. My name is Dr. Danny Holland with Envision Family Services. And I just want to take a few minutes of your time to speak with you about this return to normal after COVID. Congratulations, by the way, you did it. We're coming out of a time that is like no other, that required parenting skills and balance like no generation in modern history. And you made it. So we are here to celebrate that, but also to look at some different things that we can do, But ladies, um, the masks are going to be coming off probably pretty soon. We're approaching the end of this thing, so it's time to break out the lipstick and be ready. So again, things are happening, times are coming here, and we're moving into a good place. So now, keep in mind, they're headed back to work, and I don't mean you headed back to work. You may be as well. I'm talking about your children. They haven't been able to work this entire time. You may be thinking, "Hey, Danny, look, I know they've been going to school." And that's true because kids have one job, though, to prepare for a productive, independent life. And now their education is a major part of that task. But the intellectual part of school and the emotional development and growth, they happen at the same time. And it's different stages of things happen through these types of moments where we get into some of this dynamic where we are trying to help our kids grow and develop. So, the first level when kids are infants, growth happens just with the primary caregiver, like mom. Just close proximity. Babies can cry, they can flash their eyes, and they connect with us and they develop and they use the skills that they had in that connection for the next level. Toddlers expand into the core family area and they get a chance to try out some new things and they get a chance to also spread their wings, per se, and start to connect and start to develop. And then we get into school age kids where the educational environment and the community is where development happens. Now, as you know, over the last year, development has not really had much going on as far as the social interactions. The quarantines and other things have made it very, very difficult. But developmental growth happens in social interactions. And we know more than ever that socialization is just not optional. It is something that is absolutely required for our children to develop into those meaningful lives and into those adults to move ahead and develop the skill and the confidence. Because when our kids successfully navigate the school age season, they have confidence to move forward. And if they don't, sometimes they can sink back, lose motivation, and that forward progress. And that's exactly why we're reaching out today to give you some tips and skills and different things you can do to help kids wherever you are to be able to help them move ahead as they've transitioned now to come back into the school environment. And so we want to take a look at that and look at some of the different aspects of it and stuff too, because we're transitioning back to school. And so learning requires the academic development, which is the content, and the executive functioning. Executive functioning is how they do it. It is what they actually do in order to get the learning done. Now, they may need to rebuild the tools necessary for that school environment because a lot of times they've they develop those skills and they use them a little bit, and then when they're back home and they're learning by technology and through video, they may not be using some of those skills, and they may need them for daily use. So they may have grown physically, academically, but sometimes if they haven't had as many social experiences, they may be a little slower in some of those areas. And so learning requires academic strength in that executive function. So we have to understand though that they may have not been using it, so they may have regressed a little bit. They may have a difficult time turning in assignments and doing the different things that are a part of just the normal executive functioning. Because picture it like a muscle. If they had some kind of cast on their arm for a long period of time, they may have to rebuild the muscle in that limb to be able to use it properly. It's the same thing when it comes to emotions and other types of skills that may be necessary in those things as well too. So that's something we may be able to help them with as well too. Here's some other things though they may need some help with. First of all, new opportunities for social and emotional growth. They may need some time to be able to get out and connect. They may need some open opportunities. They may need some brushing up on that executive functioning skills. How to study it again, how to prioritize, manage their time, organize things in their life. And they may need to have to learn how to remember again how to even learn in person because it can be really difficult to realize, look, this is what we're doing now, and we're back to what's kind of happening in school, and we have to function. We have to be successful here. So, now what are some things you can expect? First of all, you can expect exhaustion. Exhaustion is a powerful, powerful thing because it's related to a lot of stress. There's good stress, bad stress. Good events can be stressful. A wedding is a wonderful thing, but it can be very stressful. So changes can be very, very stressful for our kids. And exhaustion is something you can plan on seeing. You're going to see some different issues, some different dynamics at play, but exhaustion is going to surface in a couple of different ways. And one of those ways you're probably familiar with. This screen is a very familiar screen if you have an iPhone, because when the phone is busy on a task and there's not enough capacity in the CPU to process that task, we get the spinning wheel. And so that spinning wheel can just spin and spin and spin. And it can be something we experience um, when we are using the phone at its maximum capacity. And this is also what our kids can look like when they are exhausted and overwhelmed and the capacity is full on what they're doing and what they're involved in. Picture a cup you have in your house. That cup has a capacity. We all have a certain capacity for a level of stress we can have. And once we go over the edge of that cup, no matter what brings us over the edge, it creates stress, it can create dysregulation, and it can create our brain activities in our brain that cause our brain to really function in a way that is limited. We can lose some of our memory. We can become flooded and begin to get into the fight, flight, and freeze part of our brain. And we can have some difficulty there. But the parts of the brain responsible for memory, learning, rational thinking, it turns off when that part of the brain is active. So it's really important we can help our students process through some of these stressors to make sure they don't get overflowed with capacity. Now, some things you can expect though, a range of emotions from excitement to be back with their friends, back to normal, even to anxiety, sadness, or even resistance and concern. So they're likely to be very excited. A lot of good things have happened, and they may see their friends for the first time. Some of the educators I've spoken with already have told me that kids have gone back to school and just grabbed the leg of their teacher and just held on. Some of them are really enjoying just the activities, being back in that environment. And some of them, again, are struggling. Some of them may be afraid of the transition or what things are different in the environment now than what they're used to. But remember, we want to try to help them to be successful. So let's take a look at what we can do. First of all, let's talk about being proactive. In other words, what we do before there's a problem. Preventative would be a good way of looking at that. So, first of all, let's flip the script. Stopping the negative narratives is powerful. You know, the negativity, even if you're talking amongst other adults in the home, it can be really negative. It can be very difficult to process that, you know, and look at all of the things that are going on in the world. If we have TV going, different things going that are constantly negative, it can be really hard to find that positivity. Now that they're learning in a new way to have a positive view on life, of where we're going, and on school and their education is really critical for them to be able to get some traction and continue to move ahead. So we may need to practice some media hygiene. We may need to even watch ourselves of what we're putting in front of our eyes that may just be negative or may be challenging in those areas. We want to make sure we're giving every possible advantage to the kids too. So, and then we want to focus on strengths, because what we feed will grow. You know, focus on what they're doing strongly, what they're doing right. You know, those little micro successes, the little things that they're doing that it went really well that day, build upon them, help them develop that confidence again that they once had. And so we can get them into these environments for success. And then invest in the relationship. Now, a bridge into their life is what a relationship is. It is that connection. And so we may need to build, repair, and maintain proactively that connection. You know, develop some kind of rituals, go get ice cream on Fridays or connect with them at dinner and talk with them. But waste time with them, spend time with them, develop that relationship, because you can't build an airplane while you're flying. So that basically means once there's a problem and you need the relationship, it's not the time to build it. Build it now. Continue to have that connection. So when they're stressed, when they're off, they have that communication with you and you're able to discuss it with them and talk through some of these things. But these are definitely things they can do to help develop that connection and really try to get involved with creating a different outcome for you. And then rebuild and maintain strong foundations. In other words, there's certain foundations that we all need in order to be successful. There's things we need to thrive. We all need restful sleep. Sleep is one of the most powerful things you can do for the body. The body cannot function properly without the right level of sleep and good sleep. And so, getting them that sleep, making sure they have everything they need in those areas is powerful and good for them. They need food that nourishes their body, not just any food, but food that actually fuels them can make a big difference for the body to work properly. Another thing we all need that we've lost for almost a year is predictability and control. When we have a measure of control and predictability, we can function in a way that's far more efficient. But when we all lost that during the pandemic and the quarantine, we all went into a place of additional stress and a little bit of chaos. And that can be a place that is very difficult to survive. And it's extremely difficult for them to academically thrive in. So it's very important that we have some level of predictability and control. And they need some level of emotional management skills, mindfulness and breathing and just focusing on the things that fill them up, grounding in the moment, focusing on what's going on right now, and having those moments where they just take those breaks and enjoy life. And yes, adequate physical activity is vital. I can tell you, just propelling your body forward makes a big difference. The eyes are designed to move forward and look at the environment. And when we go for a walk, a bike ride, when we go swimming or for a run, and we're propelling the body forward, we reset that part of the brain that is stressed. And we can immediately start to focus ourselves in a different way that can be very productive. Let me give you an example. The iPhone has a mode called portrait mode. And in portrait mode, the image you're looking at is in crystal clear clarity and the background just gets blurred away. Everything is hyper focused on one object. And when our mind gets to that place and we're trying to survive even the new routines of school that we love, we get in there and our kids can just be so focused on the moment, trying to enjoy it. When they get back, they really have a hard time adjusting. When they're trying to study and do homework, they can be so fixated on something that they lose their capacity to stay focused and they begin to have performance issues. When we adequately exercise and we just go for that walk and we get outside and propel our body forward, we can switch from portrait mode to landscape mode. And when we widen out our eyes, we look across the horizon or we scan back and forth for cars in the neighborhood, that movement with our eyes makes all the difference in the world to reset the mind and get us to a place where we feel safe again. And we feel like we can propel ourselves through, walk through, be successful, and it resets all those parts of the brain. So just having these disciplines can be really, really helpful in helping our kids move forward. Now, there's some common threats to the strong foundation we just talked about. We talked about the lack of exercise, sleep problems, stress, processed food, even shame and fear can make a big difference. Fear and is built around that anxiety and just concern about things going on. A lot of times, anxiety is not really data driven. It's just a feeling that we have in order to make sure we stay ready for whatever might come. And we have to be very careful not to shame in the process of really trying to correct, because these things can derail our students from feeling successful and feeling like they're able to move ahead and be successful moving forward. So these are some common threats that we may run into that we want to watch out for. Now, what can we do if difficulty arises? What do we do if something happens? How do we do that? How do we respond? First of all, listen carefully. Spend time listening. Try to really hear what's going on with them, and not just for keywords, but really kind of hear what's going on with them, and be empathic. Feel with them. Try to tap into a feeling that's similar where you can kind of feel what they're going through and experience that with them. That makes a big difference as they're moving ahead. And remember, you can respond, but don't react. If you're frustrated, if you're angry, hold in what you got going on and just respond to what's needed. And we can set and maintain boundaries and do all these things to be able to help them be creative, help them be successful. But the boundaries that might be necessary, maybe they need some adjustment in how much supervision they have or what kind of rituals they need. but we can help them be very successful in those moments. Now, let's talk about our learners. Empowering our learners. What a good opportunity we have here to make sure they feel empowered, to make sure they feel successful. And so I want to talk about this really quickly and just kind of talk through this. So, again, focusing on positive progress, a big thing we can do. If they're doing something, moving in a good direction, successes they've had over the COVID season, coming out of COVID, even if they weren't as successful coming out, the good positive things about it are powerful to do. Normalizing the difficulty. So when they feel like something's difficult and they feel like it's not okay, it's an adjustment. It's okay to feel not okay. It's okay that going back to school for 2 days a week doesn't feel right, and it's not really getting into a routine. And or maybe they're a little nervous about what's going to happen when they have to go back more than that. It's normal to feel like that. It's normal to feel awkward wearing a mask in school. These are things are normal. It's okay to feel not okay at the moment, and then help them to redevelop routines. Effective routines create predictability and control, and routines for transitions, bedtime, waking up, fitness, planning, studying, homework, overhauling their backpack, whatever routines you can start to develop will be very, very helpful for them to start to kind of move in and have some success. And then we want to protect their focus, the ability to help them push past that irritation, agitation. There's a level of focus right when we try to focus on things. There's the brain chemicals start working for us, and there's this irritability of focus. And when we help them to push past that and maintain and sustain focus, we can really help them be a little more successful in those areas. And one thing that helps a lot, though, is also creating and rewarding small goals. What are those small goals that we can reward? Just setting those little milestones, setting those little goals. If you've ever run a race before and the race seems like it's never going to end, but you may say, if I can make it to that street, and then you make it to that street, you kind of celebrate, yes, I made it. If I can make it to the next street, those little milestones, those little goals make a huge difference in helping our kids to move ahead and create some different patterns as they can feel successful in the middle of some of these tasks as well too. So we want to help them develop some of those time management techniques as well. Have realistic goals on how long things take. They may not remember some of those things, which helps us to organize systems together with them, create systems for everything, whatever we can help them do, so they can have those routines again and prioritize what's most important. Find out what is important and prioritize it. Even encouraging them to just complete tasks. Once they get started and they feel like they may be tired, letting them finish one thing and then have that success would be good. But we want to teach them how to reflect and solve the future problems, even with the problems they've already gone through. What can they do now moving ahead? And demonstrate and encourage emotional regulation and self care. And that's an important part for our kids, that they can manage their emotions. They can deal with some of the feelings that they have, and they can have some success with taking care of themselves and managing their lives. Even young kids, to be able to have them have a measure of control over that they can develop some habits and be a part of that successfully is a very powerful thing. And finally, creating ownership, allowing them to have ownership and control over tasks, as well as the consequences, both positive and negative. Whether positive or negative, it doesn't matter. We want them to feel that success. We want them to have some level of control over the task and understand that they are the ones who are making this happen. That can give them the confidence they need as they're developing to move ahead and feel like they are successful learners. And then finally, one of the best things we could do is, above all, take care of ourselves. Yeah, I know what you were thinking. You saw this, you said, above all, Dr. Holland said, travel to an island. Well, that would not hurt, but that's not what I was saying. You know what they say on an airplane, you take the oxygen mask if there's a problem and you put it on the parent first before you do the child. Because if the parent's unconscious, they can't help the child. And so it's really important for us to take that same principle as we move ahead and realize we need to be the ones as parents to make sure we are healthy, to make sure we are in a good place. Because when we are in a good place and we're managing all these strong feelings and we are working with kids going through these things, The healthier we can be, the healthier the interactions are going to be that we have with our kids. So when we model that behavior, when we demonstrate that stuff with them, they're learning, they're growing, and they are able to develop skills to move ahead, be forward. And so we want to really make sure they're successful moving ahead. We want to make sure they have every advantage as they move into the future. So congratulations. I want to congratulate you again. You made it. You did it. You made it through to where we are now. We're headed back to school. We can set them up for success. Expect anything, expect everything emotionally. They're going to be capacitated out because they have so much going on and it's a learning curve. And by the time they get in the routine of it, they can start to develop some of these things. And some of the things we just reviewed can help them very, very quickly get back into functioning well in the school environment. So, again, you got this. Again, thank you so much for your time of just watching this. And I hope it was helpful for you. If there's anything we can do to support you, please do not hesitate to reach out.